I want to thank Siete Días newspaper, which is a newspaper that I write for, and La Gaceta Latina. I have a column in that newspaper also. I have my friend here, Federico Alves. He's an economist from Venezuela, and he's going to be helping me with the statistics. Because I don't know much about it. Thank you for being here. And my friend Gladys, she's going to be recording what we're doing here so we can put that in YouTube and send it to different places. I come from a country which is in the eye of the hurricane right now. A country with a president that is seriously ill. A country very rich with the largest oil reserves in the world. Yes, even larger than Russia and the Middle East and Saudi Arabia. Of a striking natural beauty, with the largest lake in South America, which is called Lake Maracaibo, the third longest river, the Orinoco River, the highest waterfall in the world, Angel Falls, a country where violent crimes is a serious problem, and the capital city of Caracas has been cited as the most violent city in the world, where kidnapping, assaults and robberies occur throughout the country, a country where no areas are safe from the high levels of crime. And that is my beautiful country, Venezuela. Today we're going to be talking about before Hugo Chavez, the key dates of Hugo Chavez and the post-Chavez era. And then we are going to have about 25 to 30 minutes of questions and answers. Next. Let's talk about before Hugo Chavez. We have 42 years of democracy before Hugo Chavez. And why we have Hugo Chavez in Venezuela is because we have 42 years of bad democracy. We have to say that. We have a corrupt government for 42 years. Every government that was in Venezuela did not do much for the country. They were just corrupt, just like they are right now. But not as bad as it is in Venezuela right now. So Chavez is just, he comes from those 42 years. Chavez would have never been the president of this country if the people in Venezuela didn't want to change. They really wanted to get out of the democracy and continue with somebody that offered that he was going to find out the way to fight poverty and to fight corruption. That's how he ran. That's how he talked to the people. He said, I am going to fight against corruption. And I'm going to finish with corruption, and I'm going to attack poverty, and we will not have more poor people in Venezuela. And I also promised, these were his words, I also promised that there will not be children in the streets begging for money. Last time I went to my country, when I was walking the streets of my town, and I saw hundreds of kids walking in the streets asking for money, begging, I knew that there was something wrong in my country. There was something wrong with the system, and we had to do something about it, and that's why I'm here today, because we have to let the world know what is going on in Venezuela. It's not that the Chavez is just Chavez. No, it's the whole government, the entire government. We have a group of people that are in power in the military, and they have the cartel, their soul, which is trafficking, drug trafficking. And we have those people in government. We have people that do not understand what to fight against that. You have to be very careful, and you have to keep an eye on what is going on in your own country. Because how this started is when people decide that they want to change the Constitution. They say, we want to change the Constitution because I want the president to stay in power forever or for a long time. That is very dangerous, and we have to keep an eye on that. But talking about before Hugo Chavez, "42 years of bad democracy," but we have freedom of speech at that time. The radio, television, they were not persecuted by anybody. You could go on television and say whatever you want, and nobody would say anything. But this is something that is not happening right now. But we'll talk about that later. Immigration. We didn't have At that time that people were leaving the country, there were no more than 60,000 people all over the world from Venezuela, because we didn't used to immigrate. We used to stay in our country. They used to call the Venezuelan people, oh, this is cheap, give me two. Because everything for the Venezuelan people was very cheap. Wherever they went, they have the money. Very rich country, and with a population of 22, 23 billion people, you know, everybody was rich and we didn't know. So right now, there are more than 800,000 people that have left the country just because they are being persecuted by the government, just because they don't find a job, because if you don't belong to the PSUV, which is the Chavez party, they will not be able to find a job. So they have to go to different places. Immigration in Spain is not for us anymore. We cannot go to Spain. We get detained at the airport and sent back. Nobody wants us anymore, because now we are not rich. We don't go to countries to spend our money. So immigration was a big issue then. Nobody left the country. Everybody had a good life. There were problems in the country, but people live a good life. That is not what is happening right now. And the political parties, there was pluralism. There were two major political parties, ADE and COPEI. And every year, one of the two will win, just like here, the Democrats and the Republicans. And, you know, that's the way it was in Venezuela, but there was pluralism. Everybody could go and become a candidate and have a party and run for presidency. But that is not anymore, because Chavez has condensed all these political parties into one. And it's that he has a big political party called PSUV. Everybody knows, I think, I'm pretty sure that you have read that Venezuela has multiple resources. We have oil, which is where the money comes from, gold, emerald, aluminum. There is a lot of mining in Venezuela still, and an incredible group of professional people that are not there anymore. They have left the country, but they were there, and when they were there, the oil industry was working fine. It was, you know, we used to produce over 3 million barrels of oil a day. Right now, if we produce 2 million, it's, you know, maybe a little bit less than 2 million barrels a day is what we are producing right now. And most of it goes to different countries for his friends or for loans, or it's very little money that they get. But the money they get from the United States. That's the only country that paid money to the Venezuelan people for the oil. Nobody else pays. Everybody else is on loan or for free from Chavez's friends. Let's go to the Hugo Chavez key dates. January 1998, first election. He won with 56% of the popular vote. Political party at that time was the Movimiento Quinta República, which was the Fifth Republic movement. That was the first political party that Hugo Chavez ran for. And his platform was anti-corruption and anti-poverty. That's how he convinced people to vote for him. Well, people were tired already. They wanted to change. So, but he said that he was going to fight corruption and he was going to fight poverty. And that's the hope that everybody had in Venezuela. Then, in 1999, he decided that he didn't like the Constitution. It was not a good Constitution for one man. It was a Constitution for the people. So, he decided that he was going to change the Constitution, and that's when I was called by a professor, a doctor in law, Herman Escarra. I was working at the University of Santa Maria, in charge of student affairs, and I was called by this person to try to help him in the international part of the Constitution. So I got permission from the university and I flew to Caracas, and I started working with Mr. Herman Escarra right there, and I saw incredible people working on the Constitution, very, very smart people. It's not much that I did there, because every time we work something, during the day. In the evening, those ideas were taken to the president. The president will read them and rewrite them according to what he thought it was right. So when they came back, everything was different. So at the end of 3 months, I sat down with Mr. Herman Escarra and I say, Herman, what are we doing here? You know, I think that I have been wasting my time sitting here and trying to do something good. There were already 90 articles of the Constitution written, and they were very well written. So he said, I don't think we should stay here anymore, because we are writing a Constitution for one man. We are not writing a Constitution for a state. So at that time, I decided to leave. I left, because I wasn't doing anything, and he left too. He was one of the biggest Chavez oppositors, and he fought against it. He changed parties about, you say, what, 2 months ago, a month ago?
He went back.
Yeah, when he saw that Chavez won again, he decided to go with him. But anyway, that's how I was involved in the Constitution and how I know that this Constitution was written for one man. Anyway, after the Constitution, there was a referendum. And the question in the referendum was, do you endorse the new Constitution drafted by the National Constituent Assembly? And 44 of the voters participated with a 71% approval. That was his second win. Then in July 2000, he was re-elected under the new Constitution, because at that time, he was elected in 1998. From 1998 to 2000, 2 years in power. But with the new Constitution, they have to do the re-election again, because it was a new Constitution. He was the candidate and he won again, but he won under the new Constitution with 6 years in power instead of 5. Or was it 5? Yes, 5. 6 years. So he won again, and that was his second term. That was 2 plus 6, 8 years. He continued building a socialist alternative, but I have to tell you something. From 1998, the day he ran, to 2005, he never talked about socialism. He always said, I am a Democrat, and I am going to respect this Constitution. He never mentioned the word, because he was still in the process of getting people involved in the Socialist Party and trying to put everybody together to form one big bloc. So he could go out and say, like he did in 2005, when he said, yes, this is a socialism. And then Fidel Castro came out saying, socialism, communism, same thing.
Yeah.
So, yes, sir.
There was a coup.
Oh, yeah, there was a coup, yeah.
Can you explain?
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Oh.
Yeah, little by little.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what he was trying to do, is building a socialist alternative to the capitalism model. He was trying to do that, but he never said that. He didn't say that until 2005. The usage of oil revenues to redistribute wealth. He promoted the revolution overseas, and he started his big alliance with Cuba and Nicaragua. And you have heard about the Castro brothers and the president of Nicaragua. You know who these people are. And they are not good people. But those were his big allies at the time. In 2002, there was an aborted coup d'etat. Chavez returned to power after 2 days. The opposition made mistakes. They didn't follow the Constitution. Chavez was returned to power. It only lasted 47 hours. It was supported by the Venezuelan Federation of Chamber of Commerce and the members of the military. It was restored by military loyalists and public support. We have to understand that Chavez has a lot of public support. The rate of poverty in Venezuela is over 60%, you were saying?
Right now it's less, but it was 55%, and 30% extreme poverty, which is what we call structural poverty.
Yes.
And that went down to 20% right now.
Okay. But what happened is, with this 55% or close to 60% of poverty in Venezuela, It's not that they are better. They are probably poorer than they were before. But this is the mentality of these people. I am poor, or I am poor now, but the medium class is just as I am. So I am fine. Everybody's bad. I'm having a bad time. I don't have enough money to survive, but nobody else does, so I don't care. They got what they deserve. That's the mentality that they have, and that's the mentality that's the way, the language of the Hugo Chavez language to the people. That's why people are so close to him, because he speaks the same language of those poor people. He goes on television and he says, oh, these gringos such and such, with a bad word on television. And everybody, oh, yes, yes, because it's the same language they speak. Yes,
Where's the price of gasoline for the Venezuelan people?
Oh, what? Cents, like maybe...
25
10 cents.
No. Less than 10 cents.
Less than 10 cents a gallon.
Less than 10 cents per liter, yes.
The water is far more expensive and difficult to
Water
find.
is much more expensive than gas is. Yeah, but it's by subsidy. We're going to talk about that. We're not producing the gasoline right now. We are buying our gasoline from the United States because we don't have refineries or anything. We don't have anything anymore. So in order to supply the people and to keep the people calm, he buys, in January, he bought over 1 million
Barrels.
of, 1 million
Gallons?
gallons of gas to the United States, just for the country. That's the way he's keeping his people happy. And that everything is subsidy. Because you know the price of gasoline is the same price everywhere. It's just taxes that raise the price. But the price is the same wherever you go. So that's what he's doing. He's subsidizing the gasoline, and people are happy. You know, everybody has a car, a little car. They get their gasoline. They get a little bit of money from the government to buy, or a bag of food, and they're happy. I don't have much, but he doesn't have any, so I'm happy. So that's the way the process is going on in Venezuela right now. Then they have a general strike in 2002-2003 that was known, and the strike oil, or the oil lockout. That's what the people working for PDVSA went on a strike for 1 year, and it was terrible for the country. Those were very hard times. And which I said, when you don't want to work, fine. Everybody's out of work, and then he started bringing people from other countries to run the oil companies. And that's why there are 22,000 people without jobs from the oil industry. Many of them dispersed all over the world. They went everywhere. Because those were people with big resumes, with a lot of experience in oil, and those people fled. They all went everywhere. That's what happened in 2002 and 2003. Then in 2004, he wins a recall referendum on whether he should serve out the rest of his term. Another referendum, because in Venezuela there is an election every year. We have to vote on something. So 3.2 million signatures, that's when the opposition decided that to call for a referendum. And the recall referendum, to make a recall referendum, you have to have 20% of the voting population signatures. And we did it, so it was put into the vote to the Venezuelan people. And the question was whether Hugo Chavez should be recalled from office. The result, not to recall Chavez. Fraud allegations. There were fraud allegations. The studies pointed out that the yes voted represented 56 instead of 41%. They said that it was 41%, but it was not. It was 56, and that was the truth, because there were investigations going on, but there was nothing that the Venezuelan people could do, because we didn't have the support of the international community. If they go to the Organization of American States, which is the one who's supposed to help us, they would say, no, we wash our hands. We prefer to get the money from Chavez and be friends with Chavez and not with the opposition. What am I going to get with the opposition? Nothing. So we don't have the support of the international community, and I can understand why. the legal, I can understand the legal part of it. You know, if a president has been elected twice in a democratic way, there is no country in the world that is going to go and help us. Because if people put him there, we have to take him out. That is not the work of somebody else. We have to do it. So nobody's going to interfere with Chavez, even though we know that there have been fraud in everything he does in his government is fraudulent. Let's go to the next slide. In 2006, he wins another 6 years with 63%. 78% of the electoral vote. He controls all branches of government, the state offices and the judiciary. We have to understand there is no separation of powers in Venezuela right now. Only the executive power is the one that controls everything. Right before Chavez left to go to Cuba, there were 6 or 7 judges from the Supreme Court, 6 or 7 people from the Supreme Court that they were out of work without any reason. They put 7 new judges from Chavez party because they knew what was coming. They knew that Chavez was sick. They knew that he probably was going to die before the election, or he was going to die before, or something was going to happen. So he got prepared, and they put 6 or 7 new judges in the Supreme Court, and we knew that they were in charge of everything. So there is no separation of powers in Venezuela right now. And he has a wider front against the United States in Latin America. You know that Fidel Castro and Cuba is the worst enemy of the United States. Sadly to say that the United States is looking at his enemies in the Middle East. And he's forgetting that his worst enemies are right here. Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, all these little countries that they have formed a bloc. And now they are together with Iran, Libya, Syria. So these people right here, our next door neighbors, are the ones that are promoting all these horrible things that can happen in our country here. And the government is not taking care of that very much. It's like, you know, oh, Venezuela, it's okay, Chavez is just crazy, you know. But he's crazy, but he's a crazy person that is trying to do harm to this country, and we have to be prepared for that. In December 2007, he loses constitutional referendum, which included a proposal to allow the president to run indefinitely for office. Right there, he was violating the Constitution. I think it's I didn't put the article here, but I think it's Article 345 of the Constitution, which states that you cannot put a question for a referendum if it was already asked in the same year. And that happened, we voted no, that we didn't want to put that in the Constitution. And he said, oh, we lost for now, like always. That's his favorite word. So he put it in a different way. He found a way to ask for the same question with different words. That's why he said that he wanted to amend the Constitution. He started with 35 articles. He says, I'm gonna, I want to change 35 articles, and I want to put them in a block. I just ask you one question. You just have to say yes or no. And in these articles, it was the question that I was already asked to the people, and the people have said no. But he put it again. To avoid the abolishment of presidential term limit to indefinite re-election. And he put it in that block. At the end, when he was placed to the people, there were not 35 articles, there were 69 articles to be changed in that big block for people to say yes or no. So he found the way to get what he wanted that he has lost in the past. He knew that what he was doing. Many people didn't know. They were not informed. Maybe they didn't care much. So they decided to vote for it, and he won. To end the autonomy of the central bank. To end the autonomy of the central bank. That is absolutely terrible. That is outrageous. What happened with the money, with the gold in Venezuela? We don't know. The gold that was placed in banks in the United States, in England, he paid $400 million to have them brought to bring the money to Venezuela, the gold to Venezuela. The night of the election, while people were waiting for the result, that money was placed in part of that money was placed in an airplane and sent to Cuba. So we don't have the gold in Venezuela. The gold reserves in Venezuela, they are not in Venezuela, they are not in the United States, and they are not in England. They are in Cuba. Do you think that we're going to get that money back someday? See, that's what Cuba does. He sucks. Cuba sucks everybody. The Soviet Union, Venezuela. If they don't have Venezuela, they will find somebody else. And they do live out of your money too. Because every money that you send to your friend or family or friends in Cuba, or when you go to Cuba on vacation, where do you think that money goes? To the people? No, that goes to the Castro. So that's why I am against flying to Cuba. But this is for another lecture. And the reduced working hours from 44 to 36. Because in the past we used to have 44 hours. So in the Constitution, why I think the people voted for that block of law where it was embedded the presidential term limit is because they say, oh, I'm not going to work 44 hours anymore. I'm going to work 36. But what is going to happen to the rest of the 8 hours? That is the time that Chavez is going to use to indoctrinate them, to make them sit and make them study about the socialism of the 21st century, communism. They're not going to go home the rest of these 8 hours. They're going to sit down and they're going to study. And by the end of when Chavez era finishes, everybody will know what the socialism of the 21st century is, that the worst enemy of the whole region, the hemisphere, is the United States, because everybody in Venezuela believes that the problem, not everybody, I shouldn't say that. Let me say that a big part of the population believes that the problems in the hemisphere is because of the United States. Because that's what they say. Oh, that was the CIA. Chavez, last time he talked about his sickness, he said, I have a cancer. Maybe the CIA injected me something. I got it from the United States, I'm sure. And people, oh my God, how do they do that? Oh yes, they can do that. They have the technology. So that's how people think in Venezuela. And he keeps insisting that, you know, that the United States is the United States' fault, just like his mentor, the Castros. Everybody in Cuba. The new generation of Cubans that come to the United States, what do they say? I come here and you have to support me because my country is in bad political situation because of you. So I have the right to be here and you need to pay for all my expenses. That is the new generation of Cubans because they have been under this horrible system for 53 years. And if you sit down a kid and you tell them every day, the United States, the CIA, the problems in the world is the United States' fault. What are they going to believe when they get to be 18, 20, 25? They come here, oh yeah, I want to go to America. Yes, I want to go to the United States. I am here, okay? You have to support me. It's your fault. Until when is going to be our fault here? Until when we're going to be putting up with this? But we'll talk about Cuba some other lecture. I don't want to get out of Venezuela for now. And then he reduced the working hour from 44 to 36, allowed the president to declare unlimited state of emergency, unlimited state of emergency at any time. You know, you have to go to your house at 6 o'clock, you cannot get out of your house. There is a state of emergency here. So he could do that at any time. That was embedded in those 69 questions that he asked to the people. He wanted to change the name of Caracas to Bolivar's cradle and the queen of the Guaraira Repano. You know, and then he changed the horse in
the coat of arms.
In the coat of arms, he changed the horse. If the horse was looking to the right, he changed it looking to the left. Yeah.
It sounds like a joke, but it's not.
It sounds like a joke, but there's the truth. And then he changed, he didn't like Venezuela, it's going to be the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. No, the socialist, how is it? La República Bolivariana. Yeah, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, because he didn't like Venezuela. So let's change the name of Venezuela. Then you have to change everything. And what does it mean? It means money. Every time he changed something, he spends so much money. Well, you know, okay, you want the horse to look to the left. Okay, let's put the horse looking to the left. And all these changes that he went through all these years were crazy things. But people follow him just like they did with Hitler. Exactly the same. How can people follow those horrible people, those dictators? But they do. They do because they believe he's a Messiah. He's the one who's going to help me. I'm not going to be poor anymore. Now, I am poor, but everybody knows that I'm poor, so I'm important. So you know, it's a way of thinking. It's cultural. It's embedded in people's mind. So the constitutional referendum called by Chavez, the result 45% no and 31% yes. So that's what happened. In February 2009, he wins the referendum that lifts term limits on elected officials. Constitutional referendum called by Chavez reform is needed to implement socialist. That's what he said. I need this to implement my socialist programs. If I want to fight against poverty, I need a change. I need to change this. I need to amend the Constitution, or I need a referendum so people will say yes. But after that, he came out and said, you know what? The only one that can have that won't have presidential term limit is me. Governors? No, I'm sorry, not you, only me. So his people were upset at him because they thought that, oh, I'm going to perpetuate myself in power just like the president. No, that's not what he wants. It's only me because I am the Messiah. That was the way he talked to his people, and he still do. That's the way he controlled everybody. He called to abolish term limit for the public offices. He called for it, but he doesn't do it. The only person that can continue in power forever is Hugo Chavez. He can be the president of Venezuela as long as he lives. Nobody else. Candidates for mayors or governors, they cannot. The opposition claimed proposal was illegal and unconstitutional as stated in, here it is, Article 345, exactly. Because that question was asked before, in the referendum before, and people said, no, we don't want unlimited presidential term limits. But he put it in that big block of 69 questions, and people went for it. So the Democratic Unity Roundtable resurfaced, which is the month. Then the opposition started working and getting together, and they knew the only way to fight against this regime was unity. Everybody have to get united, you know, and just with one voice, with one candidate. That was the only way we could win. So we started working toward that, trying to get everybody together. Of course, everybody wanted a little quote of power. You know, oh, I don't want unity because then I'm not going to be the candidate. You know how political parties are. There's always something about, it's about themselves, but not the people. They They really don't care much about the people or the country. It's about the personal plans. In June 2011, to the present, then this is the first time when he started talking about cancer. And he started going to Cuba more and more. And he came to Venezuela and he says, oh, Fidel Castro is my savior. Because I was there talking to him and he looked at me and he says, I think you're sick. What are the symptoms? Oh no, you're sick, you have cancer. So he knew what I have, and he knew that what the treatment was, and he's saving me. He's my savior, you know, because he adores Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro is his mentor step by step. The difference between Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez is Fidel Castro is a strategist. He's very smart. He knows what he's doing. Chavez is just a Fidel Castro follower. He never went to school. He never got an education. He didn't know what politics were. Everything was taught by Fidel Castro. So that's the big difference between the two. And that's when Castro, who had tried to invade Venezuela, I think it was in 1948, he went to Venezuela and he tried to conquer Venezuela and he couldn't. Now he saw the opportunity of getting Venezuela in his hands. It was offered to him in a silver tray. You help me perpetuate myself in power, I'll give you whatever you want. What do they get? $10 billion a year in subsidies? Over 100,000 of barrels of oil a day for free? This is what Castro is getting out of Venezuela. So he's not going to let it go. He's going to fight all the way to keep Chavez in power. Or, if Chavez is not there, Maduro to replace Chavez. Because the Vice President Maduro, who is a bus driver, a guy that never went to school, never got an education, is Chavez's candidate and the Castro's candidate. They don't want the President of the National Assembly to be the interim president, because that will be a big problem. They cannot dominate Diosdado Cabello, the President of the National Assembly, but they can control Nicolás Maduro. They can get anything they want from Nicolás Maduro, anything they want, because he's a guy, you know, no culture, no education, no political experience. He's just there. He's just a bus driver that is a very good friend of Chavez. So they want Nicolás Maduro to stay in power. Everything was in secret. Nobody knew what happened, what kind of cancer he had. There were speculation. He's sick. He's getting better. So he ran for election again, in spite of the fact that he was very, very sick. He was governing from Cuba. He was not in Venezuela. He has his round table in Cuba. His people, the Venezuelan people used to go, the cabinet used to go to Cuba, get together and plan whatever needs to be done in the country, and Chavez was living in Cuba at that time. And there was a strong presence of Cuban nationals in public offices. Every time you went to a public office, register, a national register or a notary or whatever, any of these public offices, there will be a Cuban person in charge, not a Venezuelan person. So in every specific position, every important position in government, there was a Cuban presence there. And that's how Chavez's veneration of Fidel Castro showed up more and more. In June 2011, to president, he revealed he's been treated for cancer. Now let's look at this, what is that?
You're gonna click there.
Oh, I have to do it here?
Yeah.
Now breaking news involving one of the fiercest critics of the United States on the international stage. Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez reportedly taking a turn for the worse after his cancer surgery in Cuba. His condition said to be delicate right now. Steve Harrigan is live from Miami with details. Steve.
John, 3 weeks ago, Hugo Chavez underwent his 4th operation in Cuba for an undisclosed form of cancer. Right now, according to Venezuelan officials, he has a respiratory infection, so it's not clear how rapid his recovery will be. What is clear, though, is that he's made no public statements or appearances in the past 3 weeks, and things are serious enough where his own vice president, Nicolas Maduro, had to travel from Venezuela to Cuba. After meeting with Chavez, Maduro said that the leader's health was in a, quote, delicate situation. Now, Maduro is the hand-picked successor to Chavez, but some interesting things could happen if Chavez is not well enough to attend his own inauguration on January 10th. If he dies before that inauguration, Venezuela will have to call all new presidential elections within 3 months. And keep in mind, it was just back in October when Chavez was reelected for yet another term. He told Venezuelan voters that he was, in fact, cancer-free. John?
Interesting development there. I wonder if he knew something that he didn't want to share with the nation. Is there any indication?
He certainly managed to run a vigorous campaign despite a year and a half of cancer and operations. They really did everything they could to get him out there. But the fact that you have the president and the vice president both in Cuba now, and that Chavez has gone unseen for the past 3 weeks, is really raising the speculation that this could be extremely serious at this point, John.
All right. Interesting. Steve Harrigan there in Miami for us. Thanks, Steve.
So he was very sick when he was running the campaign, but he did, and he won. But you could see that the guy was very sick. He was all swollen and he couldn't walk. But he was there. He knew that the revolution was going to finish if he didn't run for president and win. And he did. He got it. And the election results, 54% Chavez and Enrique Capriles, which is a very, very good, smart, humble, young person. We had our hope that he was going to be the president of Venezuela. He got only 44% of the votes. Now, to present, the violation of Article 231, 233, and 234. What happened when Chavez didn't show up to be sworn in Venezuela? We were waiting because we, the one who studied the Constitution, know that if the president is not there for any reason to be sworn in, there are only two possibilities that they can have. It's either a temporary absence or an absolute absence. They didn't take that road. If they would have taken Article 233 and they would have said, the president is sick, we need to give him some time to recover, then at that time, the president of the National Assembly, which is Diosdado Cabello, he should have been the interim president and wait 90 days, as the Constitution states. And the Constitution gives them another 90 days for a total of 6 months to wait for the president to get better, get sworn in, and then, or if he didn't get better, then call for national election. They didn't like that way because Chavez could die in the meantime. Or they could have called the absolute absence, which is the president cannot be the president. Hugo Chavez cannot be the president of Venezuela. He's very sick. He won't be able to do it. So then the president of the National Assembly, again, the Constitution never talks about the vice president. Why? Because the vice president lost his job on the 10th of January at 12 o'clock at night. He lost his job. If the president-elect is not sworn in and called for a vice president, then there is no vice president. So he's in violation of the Constitution at this very moment. From the 10th of January at 12 o'clock at night, the vice president of Venezuela was not a vice president anymore. Therefore, he was in violation. So they didn't take the road of the absolute absence. No. That road said that if the president is seriously ill or if he's dead, then they have to call for election in 30 days. And the president of the National Assembly should act as an interim president. They didn't like that. But I am very surprised of what happened. Really, I never expected this. The guy that I talked, or the person that I work with on the Constitution, writing the Constitution, Herman Escarra, came out with a new figure. He said, well, you can call it continuity. It's not in the Constitution. That word is not in the Constitution, nowhere in the Constitution. But you can call it continuity because he is the past president and he's the re-elect president. But he didn't explain the fact that the Constitution in Article 231 specifically said that the president is the president of Venezuela until the 10th of January until 12 o'clock if he's not sworn in. You have to take either way, which is the temporal absence or the absolute absence. They didn't take any. So everybody in government is in violation of the Constitution at this moment. Nobody's doing anything. The Organization of American States, no word to be heard. The United Nations, oh, I'm not going to get involved in this. Do you remember what happened in Honduras? They have a constitution called Petria, which is you cannot read the Constitution, but the words that they're there is very specific. You cannot interpret the Constitution in any other way. So if the president was in violation of the Constitution, the people or the military have to take him out of power because he was violating the Constitution. But the United States, well, the United States at the last minute, but everybody, oh, you should never have done that. The president needs to be taken out of power by voting. No, the Constitution was read in a mistake. It was a mistake the way they read the Constitution at that time. That's what they did in Venezuela. They interpret the Constitution the way they want it. And you know what they say? It is the will of the people. Yes, it is the will of the people, but that's why you have laws to follow. You have a Constitution that needs to be interpreted the way it was written by the legislature, because they are not the legislative branch. So the Supreme Court said, yeah, you can use the term continuity. And because before he left for Cuba, he said, I want Maduro to continue in power, to be the vice president and to be the president interim in case something happened to me. And in case I die, you should elect him as president. So that's what they did. They are violating the Constitution right now. They have been violating the Constitution starting January 10 at 12 o'clock at night. So continuity, that's a new term in the Constitution. Now, what is going to happen in the post-Chavez era? Do we have time to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, fight for power. This is what is happening now. Nicolás Maduro, the candidate, Chavez candidate and the Castro's candidate, is fighting against Diosdado Cabello, which is the president of the National Assembly, the one who's supposed to be the interim president. That is a big war there, because they both want to be the president of Venezuela. And they were called to Cuba. They made a treaty there. They got sworn in, saying that they were going to be united, even if Chavez was to be dead. But there is a war going on right now. The military, and Diosdado Cabello, which is the head figure of the military also, he's the candidate of the military. So we don't know what's going to happen there. Chavez is decided that Maduro was going to run for presidency if he died. The military wants Diosdado Cabello. The Castros are not going to let Maduro go. Because if he goes, they are not going to get all the $10 billion in subsidies they get from Venezuela. Or they are not going to get the over 100,000 barrels of oil a day. They are not going to get anything if Diosdado Cabello is in power. And they are afraid of that. We have 30 years of oil commodity to be paid to China, and I have something here that I received today that is scary. These figures were sent to me today from the Venezuelan Observatory of Social Conflicts of Universities. The homicide rate before Chavez was 20 per 100. 20 per 100.
Per 100,000.
Per 100,000, sorry. 100,000, per 100,000, oh my God. Yeah, 20 per 100,000, yeah. Thank you. And in 1998, it was 4,500 per 100,000. In 2003, it was 11,300 per 100,000.
Oh, it's impossible.
In 2004, the government prohibited the diffusion of homicide rates. No more talking about the homicide rate. If you talk about homicide rate, you go to jail. That's what happened. Now, last year, it was 21,692 homicide, which is 73% per 100%.
73 deaths per 100,000.
Yes, 100,000.
You were talking before in absolute numbers, not in rates.
Yes, 73% of 100,000. In Colombia, it's 34. We're 73. Keep that in mind, 73 in Venezuela. Colombia is 34. Brazil is 24. Argentina is 8. Chile is 4. And Spain is 1. We are 73. So
How about New York?
This,
It's nothing.
That's scary.
Detroit.
So right now we have a vacuum of power. People that are in power in Venezuela are not supposed to be there. They're in violation of the Constitution right now. Nothing is being done. There is nothing that the opposition can do except what I'm doing, talking and letting people know what is going on in Venezuela. Maybe, if we keep talking and people understand what is going on, somebody's going to do something and help the Venezuelan people. Because there is not much we can do. The opposition is not going to do much. And it's a very sad situation in Venezuela. I really wish that President Chavez would have kept his word and fight against corruption and constitution. Now we have a narco state. The Chavez generals have a cartel, drug cartel, that they manage in Venezuela. The general, the military in Venezuela. What hope do we have? How can we fight against this? And don't ask me this question because I really don't know what to say. I'm going to let you take your time to questions, and I'll try to answer as much as I can. And I have my friend here, which is economist, and he went to Harvard, and he can talk about the economy, statistics, if you need to ask some of those questions. Thank you.